So I was working for an arts organisation back in 2009, and I was doing some work on amateur crafts and how in some cases amateur activity in crafts was keeping particular crafts alive, like lace making, where there's no kind of commercial market for lace. And it was on the amateurs to keep these crafts alive. So I was starting to look around this idea of intangible cultural heritage. So the skills, knowledges and practices that are part of our heritage just as much as the stately homes and the museum collections, and starting to do a bit of research on that. And I got in touch with Robin Wood, who is one of our founding trustees, and he's a bowl turner making bowls on a foot-powered pedal lathe. And he revived that craft in the 1990s after it had been extinct for about 30 years. And we started talking to each other and brought some other people into the conversation, and it was in that meeting that we founded the Heritage Craft Association. So it was a mixture of craftspeople and supporters who felt that these craft skills needed to be kept alive. And we decided to start up a new organisation. The other option was to try and lobby some of the existing organisations to take responsibility for the traditional crafts, but it soon became apparent that that wasn't going to happen, unfortunately. So we set up Heritage Craft Association, and it's gone from strength to strength ever since, really. And our membership's grown. We've now got a membership of about 1,300, all people that believe that these crafts should be kept alive and are willing to kind of support the cause, which has been fantastic. Okay, so we started the Red List of Endangered Crafts in 2015 because we were aware that crafts had been dying out without anyone having the opportunity to kind of debate and discuss whether these kind of cultural artifacts are worth keeping as a kind of a resource for the whole country. So we had some funding from the Radcliffe Trust to put together some research, and we decided to base it along the lines of similar lists that had been done for endangered species or endangered languages, and put them into categories of endangerment. We published the first edition of the Red List in 2017, and we found that it was a really attractive story to the media. So we had lots of coverage when we first published it in all the broadsheet newspapers and on TV. And the public have really taken it to their hearts and really interested. So we publish it every 2 years. And people are really interested in how particular crafts are faring kind of year on year, seeing if they've come up or down on the list. And it's just been a fantastic tool for raising awareness of this idea of craft endangerment. Okay, so the categories of endangerment range from extinct, and there are currently 4 crafts listed as extinct in the UK in the last 15 years. And then we have the critically endangered category, which is crafts that are in serious risk of no longer being practiced in the next generation for a variety of reasons. Each craft has different reasons why it's endangered, but often there's a lot of overlap between the different reasons, and a lot of it's around skills transmission and how you pass the skills on from one generation to the next. We find that there's been a big impact of the reduction in creative teaching in schools and practical teaching. So many kids are leaving school with no idea that these kind of occupations are possibilities, and also very little kind of dexterity or hand-eye coordination that would kind of lend themselves to these occupations. There's also issues around training and funding for training. So there are very few apprenticeships for heritage crafts, meaning that if you did want to teach somebody, it would be hard for you to attract government funding to help pass on those skills. So that's the critically endangered category. It tends to be crafts where there are 50 or fewer practitioners, or where if it's companies and there's maybe 1 or 2 companies, there's still a high risk that if one of those companies went bust, it would be a big impact. So these are the ones we're most worried about. And then there's the endangered category, which is slightly the next level. So we've still got severe concerns about them, but they're hopefully not going to die out as quickly as the critically endangered ones might if they don't get any additional support. There are currently 74 endangered crafts on that list. And then there are the currently viable crafts, which are okay at the moment. They've got a healthy future ahead of them, but they've still got issues that we need to keep an eye on from edition to edition to ensure that they don't slip into the endangered category. So we first became aware of withy pot making when we were having a stand at the Basketry and Beyond Festival in 2013. We were next to David French, who is a withy pot maker from Budleigh Salterton. And he's been making, he's a 5th generation maker. He's been making pots originally for fishing, but in latter years he's been making them as ornamental pots for pub beer gardens and for private individuals to have in their gardens. I had an interview with him afterwards, and he was very pessimistic about the future of the craft. He thought its kind of days were numbered. In the 5 years since I spoke to Dave, things have started to turn around, and we're starting to think that there is a future for this craft. David's got an apprentice, Sarah Reddy, who received one of our Endangered Craft Fund grants 2 years ago in order to learn the craft and to fish with the pots, because she comes from a fishing family, so she has the opportunity then to use these pots for fishing. With the endangered crafts, we always feel that if we can find a market for these crafts and a use for them, then they're much more likely to survive than if they're just kept alive through subsidy or as kind of a museum piece. And we think that the route for this craft will be through sustainable fishing, and there's a lot of interest now in fishing using sustainable materials and avoiding putting more plastic in the seas, which is a big environmental concern. So David and Sarah have had interest from Bangor University in North Wales about doing a research project on the viability of using these withy pots as a sustainable fishing method, and if that's successful, there could be recommendations that come from that project, and it could be a whole new market for these pots. So we're very optimistic at the moment about the future of this craft. We believe the red list is important because prior to the project, crafts were dying out without anybody having the opportunity to discuss whether they wanted to preserve them and safeguard them into the future. We don't say that every endangered craft has to be saved, because throughout history crafts have died out and new crafts have sprung up in their place, and that's kind of an organic process that probably needs to continue. But we just want to facilitate a discussion about what these crafts mean to us as a population, their cultural value, and for other elements of culture, such as, I don't know, opera singing or something, there's no question that these cultural traditions need to be preserved. But for things like heritage craft, we really haven't had the platform to have that discussion before, so that's what we aim to do, to provide that platform for a debate and discussion, and to facilitate and catalyse that discussion. The best way of finding out more is to come to our website at heritagecraft.org.uk, and there you can find out about the red list and read about the crafts currently on the list. And if you want to support us, the best way to do so is to become a member. Not only does that provide us with a small contribution towards our financial needs, but also you're lending your voice to a growing movement of people who believe in the importance of these crafts and keeping them alive. So we really value that.